In this episode of the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast, we're going to be talking about something that I discovered. It took me till I was in my 40s to discover this situation that I allowed to happen. Something that kind of flew under the radar and that went unnoticed for me, and it really cost me a whole lot. And so I'm excited to share this episode with you because through what I learned, I think I can save you a whole lot of things that you're going to have to kind of undo and almost getting too far gone, where it was hard to pull myself back once I realized what I was doing that was not helping me, was actually harming me and harming the people I love the most. So that's what we're going to be talking about on this episode of the Intentional Midlife Podcast. Make sure you join us now. Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. In reality, it's not about thinking life will get so much better or so much easier when you fill in the blank. Let's work on creating a life you love now. So let's dive in and get started on redefining Supermom to be someone who is present, intentional, and content rather than perfect in our homes, in our lives, and in our own skin. Let's get started. This is the Intentional Mom Podcast. So there is this mistake that I made for years. And I know, actually, I was going to say I think, but I actually know that I am not the only mom who has made this same mistake. I know that this is a mistake. It's almost like it's a lie that as women and moms, we believe. I think it is something that we accept. And I think because we believe this and we accept this to be true, we don't understand that we have a different choice. And I was well into my 40s before I realized that A, this was happening, and B, it wasn't helpful that it was happening, and C, that a different choice was actually better. So what am I talking about? Well, here's what I find women do. I know I did it. So see if you can relate. For years, the majority of my years as a mom, I thought for more than 20 years, I thought that being a good mom meant that I needed to surrender so many different things. I needed to surrender my wants. I needed to surrender my needs. I needed to surrender my interests. Essentially, I needed to surrender myself. And I made that mistake for so long. And by me sharing it here with you today, you don't have to make the same mistake. So I have 9 kids. And as you can imagine, life with 9 kids is never boring. There are an endless supply of needs. There are an endless supply of responsibilities that I have. There are an endless supply of issues that need to be managed and figured out and dealt with and overcome. And there is an endless amount of personalities. I don't know if you've discovered this about kids. In fact, I could even say the same thing is true for myself. We all have different personalities based on a whole lot of different things, right? Internal circumstances, external circumstances. We are not always consistent in who we are as we show up for everyone and everything we have in our life either. And the same is true for my kids. And so with 9 kids, 11 of us in the same house, and all these different personalities, I'm sure you can imagine that, again, that life is never boring. I'll go back to saying that. But for years, I thought that in order to keep up with it all, I had to sacrifice absolutely everything about myself. I allowed myself, I guess I'll say this. At first, I didn't realize that I was doing this. So I unknowingly allowed myself. But then I would say there was, after that, a period of years where I consciously allowed myself to neglect pretty much everything about myself, including my health, and the amount of sleep I got, my mental health, my emotional health, right? It's not just my physical health. But I neglected these things because there was so many other things that always needed to be done and kept up with. But here's the part that I don't want you to miss. There will always be more to do. And again, I know this is true from my life, and I know that this is true in the women and mothers that I interact with as a life coach every single day. Hear me again say there will always, and if you were reading that, know that that would be in caps, it would be bold, it would be italicized, it would be underlined. I don't want you to miss the always part. There will always be more to do. But here's the other side of that equation. There is only one you. And if you burn yourself entirely out, none of those things that you're trying to do, all of those roles and responsibilities and demands and expectations, all of those things that you're juggling, running yourself ragged in the process, none of those things will be done if you just burn yourself right out. Plus, you'll also have all of the other negative stuff that comes along with burnout. So, here are 3 really important things to make sure that you make time for in the midst of all of the other things that need to be done. Number 1, your tribe. Find a group of women. Find your group of women. What kind of women? Well, these would be the women who fill your tank, right? They are the women who build you up and lift you up and who you just want to be around. They're women who, when you are around them, you feel like a better person. They challenge you, they inspire you, they encourage you. Sometimes they even call you out, right? We don't want just women who will look the other way when they see us doing something that maybe we shouldn't be doing. You want to find women who will come alongside you and help you in your journey to be the best woman and mom that you can be. And at times, that's going to mean that you want other women who are going to call you out on some things because none of us gets it right all the time. And sometimes a lot of times, it's really hard to see what's happening when we're on the inside. And this is where this tribe of women who can see stuff from the outside, well, they can often see things that you miss. And so you need to find your tribe, but it's not enough to just find your tribe. Once you've done that, you are also going to need to make time for them. Again, it's one of those things I so often hear women say, I don't have time for that. And that maybe is what you're saying right here when I'm saying find time for your tribe. Again, you might be so deeply entrenched in all of the things to do, but what did we just say? Right? There will always be more to do. There will always be so much to do. But if the argument that you're starting to have with me when I say find time for your tribe, if the argument you start having with me is, yeah, that would be nice, but that's not a reality in my world, just like with anything else I say, you will never have the time. You will never find the time. It's no different with making time for your tribe than anything else. That's the key word, make. You are going to have to make time for your tribe. And maybe you're going to be the one who has to set things up the majority of the time. That's okay. Maybe you are the ringleader. Maybe you are the one who puts plans together. Maybe you're the one who's always the first to instigate and send out that text or just check in on your tribe friends at times. Maybe that is going to be you. Maybe you are going to have to be that person. But here's what I know. If nobody does it, well, it's not going to get done, right? And really, for you to be that person so that it gets done, again, you're doing that for yourself. You're doing it for them, but you're doing it for yourself. And you're part of that tribe too. You're doing it for the tribe, but you're part of the tribe. And so why not you? Could it be somebody else? Sure, but why not you? Ask yourself, why not me? But the first thing is to find your tribe and then make time for your tribe. The second thing that you need to make sure you make time for in the midst of all of the busy is your health. And you get to decide what that means, but don't neglect your health. And let's call out the different types of health that I think are really important. In fact, this month in my coaching community, it's called Accomplished Lifestyle. In the month of July, we just started a new quarter. And so as I record this, it's July, and we just started quarter 3. And in our coaching community, we have the topics that we talk about. there's a different topic each quarter. And our topic for the for quarter 3 is revamp. Revamp. And so what we're doing in quarter 3 is we are really taking what we have and we are bringing it up a notch. And so what we talked about in July is health. That's what we're talking about in July right now. And we talked about health in 3 different ways. We started off talking about physical health. And then we talked about mental health. And then we're talking about emotional health. And those are the 3 types of health that, as I'm giving you these 3 things to pay attention to, those are the 3 types of health I would definitely make sure that you pay attention to, because they are all super important and they overlap, right? And they're kind of like in this relationship with one another, where if your physical health is lacking, it's going to bring down your mental health and your emotional health. And if your emotional health is lacking, well, the same is true, right? It's going to bring down your physical health. It's going to bring down your mental health. And so when it comes to making time for your health, you want to pay attention to all 3, because all 3 are equally important. And just like one lacking in one can bring the others down, well, the same is true also. When you're being really intentional in making time for your physical health, it's going to, by default, bring up that mental health and bring up that emotional health. So often we think of our lives in these different compartments. We think that we have our health compartment, we have our home compartment, we have our family relationships compartment, we have our work compartment. And we think of all of these different aspects and roles and responsibilities and really things that we need to do, right? And we think of them all as separate, isolated islands. And what we know to be true is that is not true. And if you have negativity, if you have some of these areas where they are just hurting, well, again, by default, that low lying aspect of your life, that particular piece of your life, that particular compartment, it's going to affect the others. And you know this is true if you've ever had trouble finding the motivation to deal with some clutter in your home. Well, chances are you're going to struggle to find motivation to get some exercise too, or follow a healthier diet, or get to bed on time, or get up on time, or whatever it is. These things are not isolated. But the second thing that you want to make sure you're making time for is your health in all 3 of those aspects: your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. And the third really important thing that you have to make time for in the midst of all of the other things is rest. And this doesn't just mean sleep. I call this purposeful rest. And it's a concept that you want to make sure that you know. When I ask people what they think of when they think of rest, a lot of times they think of sleeping. A lot of times also we think that if we take time to rest, well, we're being lazy. And if you're someone who's ever tried to rest, because think of in the middle of the afternoon and you're having one of those days and you know that really it would benefit you to just sit down, take a load off, and just close your eyes or read a book or listen to a podcast or listen to some music or whatever it might be. You know that's the best thing to do. And maybe you even sit down and start to do that. But when you really start doing that, all the thoughts, all the conversations start in your head where you're telling yourself and reminding yourself of all the other things that you should be doing. And when just a minute ago, you recognized, you know what? I just need a moment. Well, when you sit down to take that moment and all of those conversations start humming and all of those ways that you're just yapping at yourself, telling yourself that really you're wasting your time, well, now your rest has been interrupted. And that's typically what happens. Typically, we see rest as avoiding doing something. We see rest as time we're wasting. We see ourselves taking a time of rest and defining ourselves as lazy because of it. And so then, because we are now wearing these labels that don't feel good, I'm lazy, I'm procrastinating, I'm avoiding doing things, I should be doing all these other things for all of these other people. And now we're kind of saddled with all of those things. It's almost like they're weighing down on you, on your shoulders. Well, so now how easy is it for you to do anything, right? So you didn't get the rest that you needed. And now you've just bombarded yourself with a whole bunch of negative labels and a whole bunch of negativity that are just making it harder for you to do the very things you're trying to do. Purposeful rest means I understand that right now, if I don't take some time to refuel, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time, purposeful rest says I need to give myself a break. Maybe it's for emotional reasons. Maybe it's for mental reasons. Maybe your brain is just on overload. Your brain has been solving problems, overcoming obstacles, putting out fires all day. Maybe you've been interacting in a strained relationship. Maybe you've had an interaction with someone who has hurt you. Maybe you're feeling disappointed. Maybe you're feeling frustrated, and rightfully so. But you're wearing all of these emotions and all of these events on your shoulders, and it's gotten to the point where you just need to take a moment to process. You need to take a moment to give yourself some space to just breathe. When was the last time you were just still? You just allowed yourself to be still. You allowed yourself to be quiet. You allowed yourself to just be. That might be a totally uncomfortable pause that I just gave you right there. And maybe in the midst of that uncomfortable pause, your brain was already off to the races with all of the things that you should be doing instead of listening to me. That's the mistake I made for years. I didn't make time for my tribe. I didn't make time to pursue my health. And I certainly didn't make time for rest. So, those are 3 things that you need to make time for, no matter how busy you are. That is what I got wrong until I was in my 40s, and it came at great expense. Not just a great expense to me, a great expense to everyone in everything I did. All of those people that you're in your family or in your work or in your community that you're running yourself ragged to serve, they're not getting a good version of you when you're running yourself ragged. Why do you want to continue to give someone a version of yourself that you don't like? We don't want to do that. And it took me till I was in my 40s. So, making sure that you're finding time for your tribe, making sure that you're finding time for your health, making sure that you're finding time for rest. Let me give you 3 actionable things to do right now, today, before the end of the day to set this into motion. If you do these 3 things, well, you have done exactly what I've asked. You've made time for your tribe, you've made time for your health, and you've made time for rest. Here are 3 simple things that you can do within the next half hour, within the next 15 minutes. I challenge you. Number 1, text a friend that you want in your tribe. Just check in with her right now. Don't wait. Just do it. Hey, how you doing? Thinking about you. How's it been going? Whatever. Check in with her. One friend you know you want to be in your tribe. Shoot her a text right now. Second thing. So that's how to make time for your tribe. Second thing to do is going to help you make time for your health. And that is to drink some water. Literally, as soon as this podcast episode is done, send it to a friend, send it to some friends that you know need to be in your tribe and that you know are also feeling like they are pulled in 1,000 different directions and that you know are not making time for these things either. Share the podcast with them. Share this episode. This is how part of building your tribe, but then you're going to do these 3 things. All right. Okay. So text that friend, drink some water. It's super easy. It is a super healthy choice. And then drink some more throughout the day. Pretty easy, right? I'm not telling you how much to drink. There's all kinds of research out there that will tell you how to essentially make sure you're getting enough water. Just drink some water. That's what I'm saying here. The third thing is going to allow you to make some time for rest. That is, make sure that you are following this podcast, the Intentional Midlife Mom Podcast. Make sure that you are following me on Instagram, the Intentional Mom blog on Instagram. And the reason I'm telling you to do that is because I often talk about productive rest. I've shared a little bit with you in purposeful rest. I call them, they're kind of the same thing. They are the same thing, but it's one of the things I talk about regularly because I know it is something that women are denying themselves of. And I know just how powerful it is. And again, it doesn't take much. I know through personal experience and doing it wrong for so long, the cost that you are paying if you are not making time for purposeful and productive rest. And so it is something I talk about a lot because nobody's talking about it. And we feel guilty for taking it. And we feel like we're being lazy and we feel like we're ignoring our responsibilities. And we are feeling like I have so much to do. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time for purposeful rest. So make sure that you are following me so that you can learn more about this concept of purposeful and productive rest. Those are the three things that you need to do. And see how I said they can be done in 15 minutes or less. They truly can. So that's your assignment from me. Friends, if we are not making time to be intentional with ourselves and to be pursuing the best version of ourselves by learning and growing and changing and learning from our mistakes and listening to someone like me who is saying, look, I made this mistake, learn from my mistake. There's nobody who can do these things for you. I love what Mel Robbins says when she says, no one is coming. Right? And what that means is nobody is going to come and rescue you from these things. Nobody is going to come and do these things for you. In order for you to make time for these three things, you are going to have to be the one to do that. No one is going to do that for you. But there is so much value that comes when you do. So that's what I had for you in this episode of the Intentional Midlife Mom Podcast. Thanks so much for joining. Make sure to share with a friend, and we'll talk again soon. Well, I love sharing podcasts or other social media posts that essentially say, hey, learn from my mistake. I think that is one of my greatest callings in life, is to always be looking at the dumb things I do and the ways that I mess it up and saying, what did I learn from this that I can share with someone else so they don't have to learn it the hard way? My brain just kind of seems wired that way. And so I hope that you enjoyed that episode. And I do truly hope that you share it with other women who you know are moms, especially midlife moms, other women and moms who you know you want to have in your tribe, and other women and moms who you know are just running on fumes. Women that you know are not doing these things and need to be, because friend, we all need to be doing these things. So make sure that you share this episode with them and make sure that you take those 3 action steps that I gave you. Super quick, super easy. Just do them within the next 15 minutes and then change your entire trajectory. Change the entire trajectory of your day right now by doing those 3 things. Until we talk again, make it an intentional day.